it's about time that we had a woman come forward to shape the story in a galaxy far, far away.
Another day, another stupid comment from someone employed by Lucasfilm. As we all know, Star Wars is bringing back Rey for another movie, so she can train the next generation of Jedi in the art of destroying a franchise. And all the highly underqualified director knows how to talk about is how Star Wars needs more women. At this point, fans are used to this stuff, but it's hilarious to see the general audience slowly become aware of just how ridiculous things are behind the scenes. The more these people open their mouths, the more it validates exactly what we've been saying for years about these morons and what they actually care about. Here's a hint: it's not storytelling or creating good characters.
This is all about me. Me.
The audacity this chick has to actually claim she's some feminist trailblazer with this movie is hilarious. You know what? Actually scratch that. Clearly I'm wrong. Star Wars is lacking female representation. After all, look at the last 10 plus years. We've had a woman in charge of Lucasfilm and an entire trilogy centered around a female character. There was a female director in charge of one of the worst shows in existence, and shows like Ahsoka came out that were fully focused on female characters. Then you have other shows like The Mandalorian that started off great but sidelined their male characters in order to pump up the women. Oh, and then there's the upcoming Acolyte show, which is also addressing the clear lack of female representation in the Star Wars universe, so watch out lady, the Acolyte might beat you to the punch even though you're both over 10 years late to the party.
Take a hike, bro. Put a vest with a bunch of pockets on, get a stick, whittle it down, make it 3 feet, get to steppin'.
Every single time a movie or show features some kind of minority or female character, these people act like it's never been done before. Black Panther had people so deluded, they acted like it was the first movie with a black lead. Hell, it wasn't even the first black superhero movie. The first Blade movie came out in the 90s. It's the very same thing here. Every damn time they copy and paste a new female show or movie into existence, they pretend like it's never been done before. We had the sequels and we had shows like Ahsoka. Everyone saw how well that went. If you think the reason we haven't had a Star Wars movie since 2019 is due to the roaring success of the sequels, then Arkham Asylum really needs to revoke your internet privileges.
Where was it you graduated from again? The University of Duh.
Now before we get into some of her interviews, in the interest of being fair and not looking at things out of context, a lot of these comments were made a while back in reference to her documentary work, which tackles some pretty messed up stuff. That being said, you can't just ignore them now because they help give us an idea of the type of person she is, since it's hard to believe she changed her mindset completely just because she's now directing a Star Wars film. It's much more likely that her work shaped her opinions and thought processes moving forward, and she's definitely going to carry those sentiments with her when she jumps into her Star Wars movie, regardless of the fact that the Star Wars audience doesn't deserve to be treated the same as her documentary audience. All this helps prove that this is not someone that you want to direct what is supposed to be a fun adventure in a galaxy far, far away from Earth's problems.
I like to make men uncomfortable. I enjoy making men uncomfortable.
Any diverse woman in it, make it safe.
Hearing that she enjoys making men uncomfortable is not that surprising. After all, she'd probably have to learn to enjoy it, since every time that bridge troll walks into a room, every man within a 5-mile radius gets instantly creeped out. Now, I'd be more worried about the bridge she lives under. If she's not watching it, then all those people just get to pass by for free without dealing with the troglodyte who owns it. Hopefully, Lucasfilm is paying her enough to compensate for the income she's losing by not fulfilling her bridge troll duties.
No! That bridge has a troll under it. Yeah!
When you can play the woman card,
You will.
you play the woman card, the damsel in distress. I mean, don't I look like a damsel in distress? I mean, I really can get away with doing a lot of things in Pakistan, getting into places and getting out because I'm a woman. There's a long line of men standing. Stand to the front of the line. How can I stand if there's 100 people standing in line? No.
Also great to hear her admit she takes advantage of every opportunity she can to play the woman card. After all, in today's world, it's rare to see a woman be so honest about being a hypocrite. Usually that's just some unspoken truths we all know about, but they never admit. But she goes out of her way to say that being a woman is her greatest asset, since she can get away with doing things men can't. The example she uses just shows you the type of shitty person we're dealing with here, because apparently being a woman entitles her to cut to the front of the line of 100 men. Not sure what guy would let that thing cut in front of them, because regardless of her delusion, she is not a damsel in distress. She looks like a monster Shinra would create in Final Fantasy VII.
Hideously deformed monster.
Hearing BS like this just goes to show that what we've been saying for years about these people is clearly true. They don't care about expanding the Star Wars universe or telling a good story. They're just looking for a platform to push their convoluted beliefs onto the public. They went out of their way to hire a director whose only experience is with feminist documentaries. And now don't get me wrong, if that's your goal in life, go for it. But what in the hell makes her qualified to direct a $200 million Star Wars film? You'd think years of box office failures would prove to these idiots that people aren't willing to pay for that nonsense, but I guess some people only learn when the bank comes for everything they own.
Stop it. Get some help.
This reminds me of the Eternals director who similarly had no real experience with big budget movies. She directed one of those award-winning movies that gets tons of praise by critics, and yet somehow nobody in the world has actually seen it. It was a small budget documentary style film about an old feminist lady going around yelling at people, so you can clearly see why Marvel thought she would be a perfect fit for their next big budget blockbuster. Now in fairness, she's not the only reason the Eternals failed, but man, she definitely didn't do them any favors. When you're dealing with a movie on that scale, you need experienced people behind the scenes. But of course, studios now prefer to cast their directors to fill some quotas rather than hire someone based on their merits.
Is your idiot brain getting fucked by stupid?
If this last year proved anything, it's that studios aren't getting a free pass for crap like this anymore. Even the mainstream media, which used to worship these companies and beg for their approval, have turned after getting a taste for how interested people are in hearing about all of these failures. They finally caught on to the trend that explains why the average critical drinker video gets more views than most late night talk shows these days. People want honesty. For a number of reasons, people figured out over the last decade that the media was completely biased and started ignoring them. So the only logical response was to eventually start taking shots at these studios the same way fans have been doing for years. It's a little late to be asking if the MCU or Star Wars are dead franchises, but hey, we're not talking about the sharpest tools in the shed here.
Special Officer Dookie reporting.
The delusion is definitely strong with this one, and really that's nothing new for Star Wars. After years of female-centric storytelling that turned a boy franchise enjoyed by men and women into a girl franchise that even women don't give a shit about, they actually have the audacity to claim they're still breaking down barriers. They're so desperate for attention, they're willing to invalidate or ignore the actual achievements of people before them so they can pretend like they're brave trailblazers fighting the good fight. Looking at the history of cinema, there are some absolutely fantastic female characters that these people would love to pretend don't exist. And the simple fact is, no characters these weirdos create with their warped logic is ever going to come close to being iconic like the ones who came before and did it much, much better.